We've got that weekend feeling. It's time for another What a Shout, brought to you by the Racing Post and our sponsors Bet365. It's Friday in the capital, which means Dave Orton back with you for another weekend feature of all the best races, all the big calls coming your way. Get your comments in on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook Live, welcome along to the party. And indeed, anything YouTube, it's hashtag What a Shout. Paul Kealy back in the studio with me for a rip-roaring weekend.
Yeah, cracking set of fixtures all through the weekend, really. Bit of jumps for those that haven't had enough of it already, but some derby, some classic trials, some big handicaps.
We all miss these mixed cars, don't we?
Yeah, I love them. I'm sure the jockeys absolutely hate them, don't they? 2 rides each, like, you know.
Yeah,
but you know,
that could have been a big call, actually, couldn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's why they stopped. You know, part of the reason they split up Sandown, didn't they?
They don't even have that many in Ireland now, do they? So
it can't be good for jockeys.
No, fair enough. All right, good to have Kills back. Good to have Pat Cooney back in his home office.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And I'm looking forward to this weekend. Funny enough, I always like the Swinton Hurdle for some strange reason. It's always a race that I seem to think, I can back the winner of. I have done a few times, but had a few unlucky losers in the past. But something for everyone, isn't there, this weekend?
Very much so. And we will be getting our teeth stuck right into the action for you. Let's have a look at exactly what is coming up on the show. Big guest this week. Well, I managed to get across via Skype to Jessica Harrington's stable. That's right, the Colossus of Irish racing joins me for a chat about all her weekend runners and what's happened this season so far. Exactly expectations for all her big runners ahead in 2021. That is absolutely sensational stuff. The hot topic, let fans return. We'll be getting our teeth stuck into that with Pat and Paul. Get your comments in for that. It's juicy. We'll be doing all the big race previews, of course, big calls in the studio, and those weekend winners. If you'd like to join up to our sponsors Bet365, now remains a fine time to do so. We have a referral code for you, SHOUT365. When joining, just type that in. Minimum £5 deposit for up to 100 bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. So it's a warm What a Shout welcome, and we go over to County Kildare, the power and the wonder of Skype that is now on What a Shout. Thanks to this current situation we're in, we've got one of the powerhouses of Irish racing. Can't say jumps, can't say flat. A warm welcome then to Jessica Harrington from her County Kildare base. Let's have a look. Where's Jessie? There she is. Good morning, Jessie.
Well, actually, it's good afternoon.
Is it good afternoon? It is good afternoon now, we should say, of course, because you've been very busy this morning. But we'll get on to that, Jessie. It's fantastic to have you on. We've had some legends of the turf on this show, and you are most definitely one of them. Now, you told me you started training in the 80s. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, the 89 I started training.
Now, and I joked with you that we have databases that only go back to 1998, otherwise the sky turns purple, all that sort of thing, which is absolutely right, actually. So we've got a lovely database here called Raceform Interactive. We counted 44 Grade 1 jumps winners, just the 44. And including in that, of course, you've got Irish Grand Nationals along the way and all that sort of stuff and all the big handicaps. And we've got 9 Group 1 flat winners. Would that be right, roughly?
I would say roughly. I'm not a person to keep stats. I make sure that other people keep the stats, and I just look at them occasionally and say, oh my God, have I really done that?
Let me tell you, you really have. And it's fair to say, Jessie, that some of the favourite horses that we're about to show now on the screen, I mean, we've kept it just at a flat. People will be throwing rotten tomatoes at the screen saying, what about Moscow, etc., Max Joy, and all the great jumps horses Jessie has had. Of course, you viewers out there, let us know, what is your favourite Jessica Harrington horse? It's going to be a long list that we're absolutely going to indulge ourselves with. But when we look at the flat screen, there are some real powerhouses there. And I have to say, thankfully, at the top of the tree, my favourite, Alpha Centauri. We've got Alpine Star in there. We've got all these great horses. Jessie, it's fair to say that in this challenging of years that we have had, the most challenging ever, I'm quite sure, since the sun has started shining, springtime has been rather kind to you.
Yes, it has. You know, we've had a great spring. It's been very cold, which hasn't helped a few horses, but we've had a great spring. We started off well. You know, we've got a few winners on the board, and some of the good horses have come out and won. And we've got some very exciting horses going forward this year.
What you absolutely certainly have. It was a successful Punchestown for you, which is, I think, the likes of, you know, me, Dave Orton, who's got the pleasure of interviewing now. I always had you down as a jumps trainer, Jessie, but you were a highly successful event rider, weren't you, in Ireland? When did the flat come in to play?
Well, we'd always had a couple of flat horses. When I first started training, there was always a couple that I don't know whether they were homebreds and got left behind and didn't sell, or there was a jumper that also had to run on the flat because it could win races on the flat. So I always had a couple. And I suppose then slowly I got a few more. And it was really, I suppose, after I trained Pathfolk to win the national stakes that I started getting a lot more flat horses, and we've kind of built from there.
Yeah, who remembers?
I never took a decision, and I never will do, and I never have done, that I'm a flats trainer or a jumps trainer. In my mind, I'm both.
Yes, dual purpose is how we're termed, aren't we? It's fair to say you're probably at the top of that tree, Jesse. It's got to be said. Pathfolk was 2010, of course. I remember that like it was yesterday. It's fair to say you've had some of the biggest owners. And the Niarchos family, I mean, Alpha Centauri was just a beast, wasn't she?
She was amazing, Philly, because she arrived in as a yearling to me, and we weigh all our horses, once a week. And she came in, and the weights came down, and she was 530 kilos. And I said, "Will you go back up there?" She can't be. She's a yearling filly. This is bigger than any, getting into jump horses weights. And so anyway, went back, and she really was. And her actual racing weight was between 520 and 525. And the other amazing thing about was she actually ran in the first week of May. And then ran in Royal Ascot. She was very, in spite of her size, she was incredibly precocious.
She was a monster 2-year-old, of course, and who can forget when she turned at Royal Ascot in her 3-year-old season. What she was going to do that day was absolutely fantastic. And who'd have thought last year, in the strangest of Royal Ascots we've had, the same silks would be worn by another boom filly?
Yeah, the Alpine Star, who was a half-sister to Alpha Centauri. And she probably surprised me. She'd had a good 2-year-old year, but she's a completely different model to Alpha. She's much smaller, very unpretentious horse. Alpha you'd pick out of the string every day, and this one you wouldn't even notice her going around. And she's a lovely natured filly, not a great colour, sort of rather wishy-washy chestnut. But what she did at Ascot last year was fantastic first time out, because, we'd had no racing. We didn't start racing here in Ireland until the 8th of June. So it was sort of it was really, we were definitely dipping into the dark.
So talking of Alpine Star, we teased earlier in the week that you were coming on the show, Jessie, and Lee Jones, one of our Twitter followers, has basically asked, will Alpine Star be kept solely to races with some dig in the ground?
She'll go on any ground. She's probably a little bit more comfortable with a little bit of an ease. But I think good fillies basically go on any ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's Alpine. We're thinking we've got a big year ahead for her again, thank goodness. Now, at Newmarket on Saturday, Lucky Vega, this chap is getting a serious following. I mean, he obviously really likes the Rolly course, second in, of course, there's a 2-year-old there. And then he came out, and some people had written him off, Jesse, hadn't they, a little bit? It was that run at the Curragh when he got knocked around behind Thunder Moon in the Group 1 there, where some people thought the gloss might have coming off him, but we look like we've got another top miler here.
Well, I think he is. There's always the doubt. His pedigree sort of said that he probably wouldn't get further than 7. But I always thought he would, because he's a very relaxed horse. And he's very easy on himself. He was a little bit fresh in Newmarket, mind you. But he's the only thing he really did in Newmarket was stay, which was absolutely fantastic.
And 3 of them came close, and that Poetic Flare form's now looking a little bit better. We'll get on to that later on the show. Of course, you've got runners, as expected, massive weekend in Ireland, Jesse. You've got runners all over the place, but at Naas tomorrow, you've got a couple in the Blue Wind Stakes, the grade 3 for fillies and mares. Yeah,
it's a lovely race, that, and it's the 3-year-old fillies taking on the older fillies. They have the 4-year-old fillies have to give them a fair bit of weight to the 3-year-olds. And I've got the two of them in there. I've got Silence Please and Sacred Rhyme. Sacred Rhyme won as a 2-year-old, and she ran a very good race last time out in the Salsable Stakes at Navan. Probably ran a bit green, didn't really come down the hill in Navan. Naas will be a lot flatter track, and I'm expecting a big run from her. And Silence Please was defeated in a lot of in a lot of good races last year, and I think she's a filly that's got much stronger this year.
Oh, that's very interesting. She's back against the girls, isn't she? The bookmakers have got one at the 4-year-old some way clear, but it sounds like there's not that much between them.
I don't think there is. It's hard, you're hard to know this time of year how good the 3-year-olds are. A lot of them are very unexposed, rather like Sacred Rhyme.
Okay, all right, so there's two big ones in what used to be considered an Oaks trial. I know that, of course. Let's go to Sunday, because it's a great card at Leopardstown, Jesse, isn't it? You've got 3 very, very interesting horses, starting in the 2:15 with Ace Aussie, who came up against last time, just happened to be a 2,000 guineas winner in Poetic Flair.
Yeah, Ace Aussie was very good. Well, he was a horse who won last year, and then we ran him on soft ground at the Curragh, and he got completely lost in it in the Beresford Stakes over a mile. He came back this year, and he seemed to be very good at home, and he ran a great race that year at Leopardstown last time, but he was very much on and off and rather green during the race, and only really got going, that was over 7 furlongs, only really got going in the last furlong and came home very strongly. So I'd be hoping that he'd step up. Jim's horse beat him. He won the Guineas, so the form is there. And I hope he'll run a very big race.
Yeah, it sounds like he's still got a bit of growing up to do, and if he does that on Sunday, I think they're going to have to watch which way he goes. Let's move to the 1,000 Classic trial then, of course. We're not, a lot of fillies with something to prove, and you run a maiden in this, Climate.
I do. I run her. She was beaten. She was beaten by Jer's horse in the maiden at Leopardstown the last time over a mile. She's a filly never ran last year. She's a lovely filly. She's a half sister to Power. There's a lot of quality about her, and I just thought, well, we could go to this and hopefully snick a bit of black type. I'm not saying she'll win, but she could be second or third and get some black type, which is really good for her pedigree, and then we can always go back and win a maiden afterwards.
Well, absolutely. And just talking about her pedigree, she interests me because there's loads of stamina on the dam side, isn't there, for one thing? And I do see she's got a Ribblesdale entry, Irish Oaks as well.
Yep, she's both of those. But we just thought, she ran so well over a mile the last time, we might as well just, try a mile again, and then we can always step her up.
Fascinating. And of course, let's go now to perhaps the race, well, certainly one of the races of the entire weekend. It's the Derrinstown Derby trial. It's been a little while since the winner of this went on to follow up at Epsom. However, it's a deep race, Jesse, and I've got to be honest, I'm really interested in Taipan, your runner. He really caught my eye behind Bolshoi Ballet on their return. I can see him getting a bit closer, if not pipping him in this.
Well, I hope he'll come forward. Most of my horses this year have been coming forward from their first run. He had only had one run last year, and he won his maiden in Naas. But that day, he was drawn wide on the outside stall, and he stayed wide, and he didn't really get in behind any horses. And he came up the wide outside and just got there, in the dying strides, under a hands and heels ride. And the other day in Leopardstown, he was actually drawn 1 or 2. So all of a sudden, he had horses in front of him, outside of him, and behind him. And I think there was definitely a learning curve. He had to learn to go through gaps. And I think he'll improve an awful lot from that. I really do. And he's got on Sunday, he's drawn 6. There's only 8 of them. So, it's a nice draw. And I think he's improved since his last run.
That's what everyone wants to hear. And again, viewers out there, look on your members section, your racing post with your video replays. It's the end of the race. Taipan really impresses last time out. So there is Jesse's runners this weekend. You've got runners everywhere, Jesse, and I know you'll probably hate to do this, but legend has it, you're not a bad tipster. If you had to give our viewers one this weekend?
I might one in the maiden, the filly's maiden, Bonte-Moi. She's a filly I've always loved. She's a very big Le Havre filly. I thought a lot of her last year. I only ran her once, and she got stuck in the mud up the Curragh. She's just been pleasing me this year. She's come on very well, and I just think she could run a big race.
Marvellous. You can hear the steam coming off the keyboards and on the phones now as people scuttle to find exactly what that runner is. Well, Jesse, thanks so much for coming on. This really genuinely has been a pleasure. And hopefully, touch wood, we'll be able to see you on a racecourse with some actual racegoers going forward this year.
Hopefully we can. Yeah, that'd be great. God, it'd be lovely just to get in the car and drive to the races and meet people.
There you are, absolutely. Well, and we wish you all the best from the Racing Post, you and the family. Take care, Jessie. Thanks ever so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Jessica Harrington then, what a pleasure that was. Let fans return. Hot topic time. So we approach May the 17th. More on the road matter of the great opening up in Great Britain. Does it feel like it's open at the moment? That's the question. We'll be getting into it. This week in the Racing Post, you'll have hopefully seen by now, great story by Pete Scargill, one of our roving reporters. If you haven't gone to the website, you can find that was in your Friday paper. He talks to David Armstrong, Chief Executive of the Racecourse Association. Now, David this year has been putting his head above the parapet, basically saying we hope to be in these phased returns of fans, pilot events, basically. Racing was not involved in phase 1. We're very much hoping to be involved in phase 2, said David last month. Now that's looking a little bit sticky as well. So, for example, Windsor on May the 17th, the great opening up that we're expecting when you'll be able to dine indoors, fans coming back in restricted, up to 4,000 point to points, they're all returning. They're selling tickets for their Monday night. However, David Armstrong has now come out and said we hope to have maybe one pilot event in June, perhaps. I mean, Kills, this is a changing of the guard a little bit. The goalposts are changing. Now, we know what this government is like. You can't set your clock by them, can you?
I mean, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, we saw Tom Dascombe at Chester, didn't we, saying, look, this is ridiculous. I can go down the road and have a drink with my owners in the pub, but I can't have it on the course. Yeah. Now, at some point, the government talks about data, not dates, didn't they? We'd be driven by data, not dates. And all the data is suggesting that it's going miles better than they expected. Now, I don't suppose we expect them to open up everything completely, but I mean, it is about time, isn't it? I mean, the figures are so good by comparison to where they had been, and they're coming down week after week after week, especially during the next phase of opening up. Yeah, why not?
It feels like it's time, Kills, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? I mean, I've got tickets for the Brigadier Gerard, but that's on the 27th of May. That's like, I can't wait to go. I mean, I know people that, when they see tickets, they're going up, they're buying them left, right and centre. There'll be no shortage of punters wanting to go back. I just don't understand why, I thought May the 17th, I thought we'd be on then.
I think everyone did, Kills, and you look at the numbers and you're thinking to yourself, why on earth not? You're also looking at other sporting events. We had 4,000, didn't we, in an FA Cup semi-final at Wembley. That was Southampton versus Leicester. We've also had fans in the Crucible for the World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, they were tested in and out as well, weren't they? Yeah. Apparently. So, I don't suppose you can do that at the racecourse, but they were indoors. Yeah. Vast majority of racing it takes place, you're outside much of the time, or you're in big open halls basically, aren't you? They're not going to have absolutely crowded bars if they're only letting 4,000 people in.
Optics are everything with this government, as we well know. Just when we've been pat in, there was a great tweet during the Scottish Grand National meeting. There's a Tesco next door to the Air Grand National, course up in Ayrshire.
Exactly,
it was absolutely rammed, wasn't it? Yeah. And yet we had 2 owners per horse, socially distanced masks outside. It all just looked very bizarre, didn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't. I worry sometimes because we had all the bad publicity over Cheltenham, which. Look, it's perfectly plausible to believe that Cheltenham shouldn't have gone ahead, yet not blame racing authorities because it did, because that's the way the government was going at the time. But now I just get the feeling that racing is not all that confident in its own skin, and instead of pushing for it, it's just waiting and waiting and waiting.
Sitting it out.
And I think it's time to get a bit proactive.
We need some answers, don't we? So, Pat Cooney, let's come to you. In Liverpool this week, we've seen some pilot events, socially wise. I mean, Pat, you got out, to your Bet365 meeting at Sandown. Did you get to one of those parties? Are you a raver?
Well, I'm a raving lunatic on occasion sometimes, but we've sponsored at Doncaster, Newmarket, and Sandown throughout the lockdown, and I was there for those 3 venues during it all. It was perfectly well organised, perfectly run. You go to Doncaster, you don't realise when you look around in an empty stadium just how big the place is. Newmarket vast, Sandown vast. I just think, come on, it's about time we said, look, Cheltenham 2019, we get it. Yeah, you blamed us. We shouldn't have gone ahead with it. You're fine. That was a long time ago. It's completely different now. And I just feel sorry for the potential racegoers. Sandown 2 weeks ago on our Gold Cup Day was a fantastic card. It was great racing. And you look around empty stadiums, you think, well, they could even go in the middle of the track. They could stand at the pond fence if they wanted. Enough is enough. Just, let the public back in moderation, of course, bit by bit. But surely we've jumped through enough hoops by now to let the public come through.
Very much so. So May the 17th upcoming, basically. We're hoping for more pilot events. I mean, when you're hearing that Ascot, for the Royal Meeting, hoping for 10,000 in a day, but yet they're still not sure. Those of you that have got tickets will be after for a voucher rather than a refund. The racecourses need money. Some of them are being savvy. I referenced Windsor on the 17th at the start of the show. I'm pretty sure that's a terrace restaurant. We're allowed to dine indoors, aren't we? So we're clever out there, but at the moment we need answers. What's going to happen to betting slips, for example, on the course? Come on, people. We need the answers. Right, racing clues. Let's go back to a classic weekend at Newmarket. Was it a classic weekend, Kills? Did it feel like we've seen some stars?
Well, we have got two classic winners out of it, didn't we? That's all you can say at the moment. I think I don't think there was anything wrong with Mother Earth. There was a lot of talk about Santa Barbara. It is a monster task for any horse to come out of a maiden. It doesn't matter who trains them. And she shaped really, really well, but just wasn't good enough. The gamble on alcohol-free took pretty much everybody by surprise. I mean, for a horse that was such a dodgy stayer on pedigree and on what she did at Newbury, that was very, very surprising. She's a sprinter. She's got to be going for the Commonwealth Cup now, isn't she? She looks all over a sprinter to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't think much of the 2,000 guineas, to be honest. It was all very so-so. 3 game clear, but all very close to each other. And is there a superstar there? There very often isn't in these early season races. I mean, when was the last time we saw a really, really good Derby winner? When was the last time we saw a really, really good Guineas winner? It doesn't happen as often as you think it is. I think it does.
No. People are almost as excited about the supporting races, weren't they? I mean, Sir Ron Priestley was a good winner, wasn't it? He looks like
he was good. He could serve it up to Stradivarius. He could even be a top-class mile-and-a-half horse. We don't know yet, do we? I mean, obviously, Pile Driver probably needed a run, didn't help himself by hanging, but Sir Ron Priestley beat him pointless. I mean, he's only lost once in his last 5 or 6 starts or something, and that was in the Ledger to Logician, who looked exceptional that day. So yeah, he's a very interesting horse going forward. It's interesting to see what they do with him, because he's going to have to prove himself over 2 mile 4. But he's obviously got an awful lot of talent, even at 1.5 miles.
Yes, he looks like the one that could just serve it up, doesn't he? We might have seen something at Chester, which we'll get to in a minute. Let's just concentrate on Poetic Flair for a second. We've spoken to Jessica Harrington as well. Lucky Vega ran an absolute stormer, didn't it? Jim Bolger and Kevin Manning. You've had Dettori, 50 years of age, on the 1,000 winner. 54-year-old won the 2,000 guineas.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, really. They can just keep going on and on and on. And Jim Bolger comes out year in, year out. He will have something at some point, won't he? I mean, he won the Futurity last year with McSwine. He's going to be in action in the Derby Shout. And he just comes out, and obviously he breeds a lot of them himself, and yeah, he just produces them at the right time. But I mean, was that a good race? I don't think so.
It must have been very hard to train Poetic Flair last year. Do you remember he won the 2-year-old maiden before shutdown?
Yeah, well, I think he did that with, was it Dawn Approach as well?
He did.
The first 2-year-old maiden was with Dawn Approach as well. So he likes to win these early season races with a good horse.
Yeah, he was entered in the Commonwealth Cup and not the Derby. Did we see the Derby winner this weekend? Or are we still looking for the trials? Dante coming up, obviously.
I think we're still looking at the trials. I mean, we've got the big ones coming, haven't we? We've got the Devonsdown and the Dante. Don't think we saw anything at Chester, to be honest.
No. I was left with that.
I think I'm absolutely confident that we didn't. I mean, the variant horse that won looks quite nice, but I don't think that's a stayer.
El Drama,
that's it. Yeah, looked quite nice. I thought Armory would go really well there, but that finished tailed. So yeah, I don't think Chester form is going to play a part somehow.
Let's just concentrate on Chester before we go to Pat then for the moving of the chess pieces in the anti-post market. Japan finally put his flag into the ground, didn't he, and said, I'm back.
He did, yeah. I mean, that was his first time he's ever won first time out, but I mean, it was a hell of a lot easier task than it was last year when he was reappearing at Royal Ascot, was it?
It was, yeah.
It was Royal Ascot, yeah. So I mean, it was much easier, and he was getting £5 from Trushan.
That was the real big
This
one.
is the big day. Yeah, that's the big eye catcher. I don't think Japan will get any further than that. Like, you know what I mean? Because he was definitely looked like he was going to dominate in the straight, didn't he? And then Trushan was coming back at him. But that was a massive run by Trushan, giving a proper Group 1 horse £5 and only getting beaten around about a length, just under. That is.
He was lit up early. He wasn't that well away, and Ollie Doyle had to get him into.
Yeah, exactly. So he was doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
And still got within a length of a Group 1 horse, giving him £5.
What does he need to beat Stradivarius in June?
He needs to prove he gets the trip.
He looks like
I don't think that's a problem. Yeah, it doesn't look like that's a problem.
Ground?
These are good horses. Ground, not so sure. I don't think he'll want it really fast. But of course, we've had one of the driest Aprils ever, so we can't bank on it. We've had soft ground Royal Ascot. It was last year.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So
we just don't know what we're going to get.
We don't know what we're going to. But him, I mean, Ocean Wind made Stradivarius work.
Yes, he did.
And this is not going to be absolutely plain sailing.
With Sir Ron Priestley as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly, yeah. So
do you think he'll go off odds against Stradivarius?
You never can tell. I would say yes if they all get there, but probably only just.
Putting your head on it there. Happy days. Right, Pat, let's come to you then. What happened in these anti-post markets?
Well, it's just all up in the air, isn't it? I mean, you look at the 2,000 guineas, last Thunder Moon, second last Battleground, fourth last Wembley. The 2,000 guineas form has a big ring round it with a question mark. I'm not so sure anything in that race will come out and be of any use, go over a longer trip. The one horse that I think really did introduce himself into the anti-post market was on at the Guineas meeting, Mohafeth of William Haggis, who only won a 4-runner race, but he won it so easily. It was just an amazing performance. And prior to that, he had won one of our Bet365 handicaps at Newmarket at the Craven meeting. And when he won that, I thought, yep, that's it. That's my Royal Ascot handicapper. That'll do for me. Let's hope they don't run it between now and Royal Ascot. And of course, he comes out and he wins on the Guineas weekend, really looking like a superstar. He's making giant strides with each run he has. Possibly flattered, I get that. But at the moment, if you showed me a video recording of every horse's most recent win, I'd say he's the most improved horse in training at the moment. And of course, William Haggis is a very good trainer, just playing it down a little bit, saying, oh, I'm not sure yet, but we'll have to see. He could be one of very much of interest. But we're waiting to see a real wow moment. And maybe the Dante, as usual, will be the most significant Derby trial.
That comes up at York next week. So, yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that Haggis winner, Pat. Not so glad that you mentioned Thunder Moon, of course. We had to get one mention in it. It was absolutely horrendous, wasn't it? So big ring around it. As Pat, though, is quite right. It's an informative time. More questions at the moment than answers. First, your big race previews coming your way. Let's go to Lingfield on Saturday for the Derby trial, a race that in recent years has really come back into fashion. Anthony Van Dyke, of course, did the big double a couple of years ago. English King, when he won it last year, we thought we had the next coming. Of course, that didn't work out in one of the strangest derbies you've ever seen last year. Keels, who wins?
I mean, the race lost a lot of its interest, didn't it? When High Definition came out, I was massively looking forward to taking on High Definition.
Ooh.
We'll mention that when we talk about the Derensdown later, actually, and the rest of Hayden O'Brien's. But I took a chance with a Dayar then. I think he's shaped exceptionally well in that classic trial at Sandown. Now he's only finished third, but he's only beaten half a length. He missed a kick. The race was dominated by the two who just went their own steady place up front. And it was the only horse to make ground on the outside in the straight. That had been well watered, that flat track at Sandown. I know a lot of time people are saying they had it on the soft. They had it soft,
right, rather
than good to soft in places. They had it actual soft ground. And it was one of the very few horses to make ground on that outside. And I just think he's a lot better than that. He really looks the part. I remember one of the Dixons raving about him on looks in the paddock on the day on racing TV. So I think there's a lot about him, and I think what you generally get with Hayden O'Brien's, which surprised me with High Definition running, is his third string choices coming to this race. Now I know Anthony Van Dyke won the Derby.
He wasn't first,
but he was a 50 chance going into the Lingfield Derby trial. And nobody was really considering him as a Derby horse then. And I doubt very much whether these are these are top level
He
contenders.
was a drifter in the Lingfield Derby trial, I seem to remember.
He was, yeah. The ground was softening. It was all he won't handle that, and he turned out he actually beat some average horses, didn't he? But it doesn't matter. He went on to win the Derby as well, so he was obviously pretty good, albeit an extraordinarily average, if he can be extraordinarily average, Derby winner.
It's possible.
I think that Kip.
You think the Jolly's going to take?
I think the Jolly's going to take it out. Kip Fios's form at Cork, they done it well enough, but I don't think that's all that.
He just looks. I was a bit surprised that they weren't closer in the betting. I looked at Aidan's other horse and thought not sure to stay. Is it Scope of Beckett's? Really nice one at Newmarket, but he's not cast iron to stay. He's by Teofilio, and while Look Closer is on the dam side of the pedigree, who won the Oaks, his actual dam was a miler. I'm not so sure about that. I can see why they're going to this. And Third Realm of the Varians looks interesting. His Nottingham form solid enough without taking the breath away. I thought Kipros was the guaranteed stayer, so that's why I put him up.
Yeah, I think Adele was guaranteed to stay as well. And if it's going to lash down, which it seems likely to do across the country tomorrow, it'll suit him as well.
I'm glad you got that in, Kills. Rain is on the way here in Britain. Pat Cooney.
Yeah, I mean, this race is all about Adea. I was at Sandon when he ran in the Classic Trial, and as the fellows have said, he's an absolutely gorgeous-looking horse. Very tall, very imposing. Maybe that's the reason why Charlie Appleby's running him round Lingfield to see if he can handle the undulations. But he was an unlucky loser, no denying at Sandown. And okay, the form, your bear finished third that day. He got beat yesterday, but he was beaten too far, really, to say the form was let down. He just didn't run fire. Adair, he just looks that type of horse. He was a bit unlucky. He lost his hind shoe as well, so you could maybe mark him up as maybe the moral winner of the race. He was the only one that came off the pace in that race. He's going to be tough to beat. You look at Aidan's pair, Kyprios, Carlisle Bay, both cheap pieces for the first time. I think on balance with these Guineas trials, Derby trials, it's best to oppose these Aidan O'Brien horses. They seem to be on a searching mission rather than being ready on the day. Adea's got that good-looking run in a Group 3. All points to Adea. Maybe Third Realm, Roger Varian on a horse at double-figure prices. He might just be popular. Of course, he took out a Derby trial at Chester. Maybe he might be one that could shorten up in the market. But, on balance, I tend to go against the Aidan horses. They'll be good by the end of it, but I normally take them on in April and May. So you do keep coming back to Adea. I think he's a worthy favourite, and I think he'll shorten up even more.
Lots of confidence then in a tricky Derby puzzle for the favourite. Shall we go jumping again? Why not? It's the Swinton Hurdle. It's always this race, Kills. It always catches pundits and analysts and everything out because it comes so soon in the jump season. It's a grade 2. It's a proper 2-mile graded handicap.
It's a proper good handicap hurdle. We always consider that it comes at the end of the jump season, but it actually comes at the start of the jump season, doesn't it? It's a good race. I've always enjoyed the race. I love watching hurdlers on good ground. Unfortunately, having been good at soft good in places, which is just about perfect, is going to bucket down in the north all morning tomorrow. And you go through the race. Hang on a minute, where are the soft ground horses? Because I was just thinking, I've backed a couple of anti-posts. Defining Battle for Dan Skelton, who I think travels really, really well. Is better off with Capron for Taunton running. I worry whether he truly gets a trip in soft ground. That worries me if it gets very soft. The other one I liked was Brian Ellison's Cormier, because I thought some of his form early in the season on decent ground was good. He ran okay when 7th to the shunter in the Greatwood, but
he did run okay.
Then he got stuck in the mud at Ascot, and he's been left alone since then. You've got Evan Williams, absolutely loves the race. There's been loads of money for Ballinsker.
But surely that's ground, isn't it?
That is ground again. Yeah, this is the whole point. Second to Milkwood earlier in the season, who is now £25 higher.
One at Ludlow on good ground.
Yeah, and one at Ludlow on good ground again. Another one. But you go through it. Where's your soft ground horses? I came down and thought, well, actually, Nordic Combined handles it very well. He's an absolute hound. He managed to win last time. And maybe
nothing combined about Nordic.
Maybe this time next year is okay on soft ground as well, but he's another hound. So I was up in the air. I'm going to end up sticking with my two, Defining Battle and Cormier, and hope they both run well. But until we see what the rain does and how much they get, but it's up to 20 mil apparently. And if it's 20 mil, that is,
We've obviously been doing a lot of these shows together because Divining Battle was top of my list, and I saw I backed him at air and thought that Dan Skelton went a bit too soon. But I'm pretty sure he attacked because he thought he went, a bit too hard at Taunton as well. But they obviously think this guy's got a bit of a turn of foot, don't they?
Yeah.
They want to wait a bit longer with him, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
I looked at his pedigree and I know he's a mile on the flat for Mick Halford. I think, hopefully, I'm pinning my hopes on the fact that we've got spring soft ground.
Well, this is it. There's a massive difference between spring soft ground and the temperatures we've got than there is when it's 2 degrees and there's been water in the ground all the time.
And the other one I like, Cormier.
Oh, was it really?
I put him up in the Greatwood, and I was disappointed with him. He got too far back. He then went to Ascot. It was just looked like a sort of over the top race. He had a really good run on the flat, didn't he? And then he won a couple.
Yeah, and he has one on soft on the flat.
He has, and this is just the sort of target that Brian Allison likes. So me and Kills were in agreement. Who knew? Pat Cooney.
Yeah, fascinating race. And as you mentioned, Evan Williams, he's actually won this race 4 times in recent years. So that's some strike rate, really. He's got one runner in the race, Balinska with Adam Wedgeport. There has been each way money for him, anti-post. I think maybe the key to the race is the conditional riders at Aintree at the Grand National meeting. Campron finished second that day, travelled like the likely winner from start to finish. He finished second, a progressive run. He did go up £9 for that, though, so the handicapper's a big fan of that run. And the horse that was probably the unlucky loser in that race is our favourite as we speak at the moment, Coppolas, who was travelling like a winner when he came down and he fell. And he's only gone up £3, so the handicapper thought he would have run a race full of merit. So I just look at it. Coppolas, he went up 3. Campron second, went up 9. I think Coppolas would have beaten Campron. So on that basis, I think we've the right favourite in Coppolas. Ground is the question mark with them all. So I'll work on the basis Coppolas. He could get compensation for an unlucky defeat last time, but always a good betting race, this one.
It's another deep Swinton hurdle. There's some help then. Much depends on what the heavens do. Let's whiz down to Ascot then, the Berkshire playground for the Victoria Cup. Long-standing cavalry charge, handicap, loads of runners. Where's the pace going to be? That's usually the question. What's the weather doing? Well, Keels has already alluded to the fact there's loads of rain Saturday, tomorrow. That's going to bring in some old favourites, I think. Pat Cooney, let's come to you, though. This is always an anti-post, hot race during the week. Who's going to go off clear fav?
Well, as things stand at the moment, Acquitted is favourite, but of course there are 29 runners in the race, so a lot can happen. Stalls are in the centre, so hopefully there'll be no bias either way. Acquitted is favourite. He's in stall number 20. Good reappearance, and of course when he ran first time out last year, he was the big market mover to beat a horse called Palace Pier in a handicap, so we can forgive him that defeat. He's there in the market basically because of the form, but there's solid enough horses in the race. The top weight Mutakahil, he's there at single figures as well. Of course, he won our Bunbury Cup at Newmarket, which is a very, very similar race. Always a good starting point to look at that race and then marry up for this one. He went up 6 for winning the Bunbury Cup. That's fair enough. So they're all priced accordingly. Chief of Chiefs is going to have his backers. With anytime there's a straight mile or 7 furlongs at Ascot, people always think to back Jamie Spencer's horses. Whether or not this horse wants 6 or 7, I don't know. For my sins, I quite like Mutakahil, but there's 2 old favourites in this race. Anytime you see soft ground, Ascot 7 furlongs, Raising Sand comes into the equation. Now a 9-year-old, Safi Osborne claiming 7. And I was hoping I wouldn't be a fan of this horse's claims yet again. Ropey Guest, 15 races, 1 win. I don't know why. I always seem to end up fancying this horse at a price. He's been gelded since he ran last time out. So, maybe that will work the oracle. He's in stall 23. You can back those type of horses at double figure prices. Maybe that's a better way to go. But a fascinating race. But the Hugo Palmer horse at market leader at the moment, and he's got a solid form book chance. But you can make a case out for some of these old favourites at bigger prices for sure.
Oh, great start to the preview, Pat. You already mentioned some old favourites. You could hear a sniggering in the background a little bit. Okay. Raising Sand. Let's start with him. He just is Mr. Ascot on soft ground, isn't he?
He is, isn't he? He hadn't had his race, whether he's well handicapped enough now or not. I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter in these races because loads of 7 furlong handicaps at Ascot through the big field, big money 7 furlong handicaps. He'll run in nearly every one of them, won't he? And he will run well. Yeah. Whether he'll run well first time out or not, I don't know.
That's a big tick in this. I nudged Kevin Morley, our trends expert, for the email this week, because this is always one that I like to do because I know it's a strong trends race. Drawn high, first time out run, you want one in your bag. And winning over the trip, certain things like those rating bands. And
yeah, well, this is it. You said drawing high, and when we were talking about the Swinton, you said it depends on what the weather does. And with this race at Ascot, it depends on what the jockeys do. Because, we've seen time again, we've seen horses win over the far side in big field races at Royal Ascot and the like. But in this race, year in, year out, they avoid the far side like the plague, and they all come across. And 2 years ago, they all did exactly the same. And the last winner from a single figure stall of this race was 2012. From 2013 onwards, only 4 horses drawn in single figures have managed to hit the first 4.
Yes.
2 of those won 2 big field handicaps later that season, showing that how well handicapped they were by hitting the frame.
So you've got to have bundles in hand.
You've got to have bundles in hand. If that, never say never with the jockeys, isn't it? But if they do what they've been doing, it will all be towards the stand side to middle. I mean, I think they raced 4 or 5 horse widths away from the actual stands rail last year, but they still all sort of conjugated together. So that would bother me. I've backed a couple drawn reasonably high. Chief of Chiefs is one of them. I thought he was a monster eye catcher in the Cabbage. He finished hot on the heels of Summergander. He's obviously won the Avenant and the All-Weather Championships. Another horse ahead of him ran well in one of those races as well. Jamie Spencer just had nowhere to go on a day when they all wanted that rail.
Emiratiana
was there as well, yeah. So he had nowhere to go. There's more room at Ascot because they're not all going to conjugate on one rail.
Track.
He won to Silver Wokenham last year. That was over 6 furlongs on easy-ish ground. He flew late. He beat Nahar, who went on to win the Air Gold Cup. Yeah. He then finished 4th to Blue Mist in the International on fast ground at the track. Over 7 furlong. It wasn't a case of not getting the trip. He got going too late. Now, I don't think he gets a mile, but he was 9th in the Balmoral in 2019. He only faded in the final furlong, and that was on heavy ground. I don't think he gets that trip. But soft ground's okay. He was 4th to the Coca-Cola at Doncaster last year. Wasn't far off his best then. Okay, he's an 8-year-old, rated 99. You got to wonder how much extra he's got in the tank. But it was career best last year, and some of these horses do improve as they get older, don't they? You get the occasional example, not many, but so I give him a chance. And I'm with Pat on Ropey Guest. I think you've got to have a little bit of Ropey Guest each way. I assume you go in 6 places, Pat.
Weather permitting, maybe.
Yeah,
that's just like, let me take it to Denise or not.
Seven non-runners. No. But I mean, he's drawn. He's drawn 23, I think, and he ran first time out last year. Was 4th in the Jersey Stakes. Travelled really well, breezed through. Okay, didn't find that much, and that has been the story of him. He's won 1 race in his life at odds of 130 on. But he was also second beaten half a length on a Horace Hill on heavy ground on his final run as a 2-year-old. And, he went up to 104 after that Jersey run. He's down to 98. He's been gelded. Now, if he grows up a bit for being gelded and gets a bit tougher, then he's a massive player.
I can see him running really well to a point.
Without winning. Yeah. Each way.
Because I know Ropey well as well. I've put him up for a few things as well. And Chief of Chiefs, you've obviously had a very good look at that horse, and it's slightly compelling, isn't it? Harrison Point's another one that I want to stick in. Ollie Doyle, Archie Watson. People will look and think you've been beaten on the all-weather last time at Wolverhampton, scrap it. He's not had that many runs. I think he's 4 from 15 this horse, something like that. And he's got soft ground form. He's got form with a couple of leading protagonists. And it's Holly Doyle on. She'll go down the middle. She's going to be there or thereabouts. And that race at Wolverhampton last time, there were 2 decent horses, Gobi Sunset, who I think reopposes, and there was a hand-down horse, I can't remember his name. Margub was the name of the horse. Thanks, Rob Lee, in the studio. Are we allowed to call them hand-down horses now, by the way? This is something I wanted to talk about.
Well, actually, why not?
Or Abdullah horses. Should we not call them Shadwell and Judmonte now?
Well, I suppose you should do. But I mean, you like to recall former owners, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. 2 great men. Anyway, we digress. Margub just got away, and he was coming. It wasn't run to suit him. It was a perfect prep for this. I've got a feeling I might have found one there. I'm not worried about what the weather does, but I will have a bit on Ropey Guest as well. And cheer till the furlong marker. Yeah. All right, that is the Victoria Cup. Let's get some big calls out there for you then. I'm going to take the floor. Is anyone riding better at the moment on the flat than Jim Crowley? Absolutely fantastic stuff from Jim at the moment. It's been coming since the back end of the all-weather season. I've been watching him a lot. And it was at Chester this week. It was on the opening day. It was in a maiden. It was on a Handan horse, who probably didn't have that much right to stay the trip on the ground. He just covered every single inch of ground. Some of the other jockeys got it totally wrong, and he just put the horse there on the line. He did it, and the horse didn't really have a hard race. And I've got a feeling the horse it's probably better than that horse is. And I've been watching him on the all-weather as a ref in the Victoria Cup. He can go in Group 1 races. I know he's one of the senior jockeys, but he's got loads of time left. He is a serious operator.
Yeah, can't argue with that at all.
Okay, there we go. Let's nod from Kills. What about you, Pat?
Well, I would like to give honourable mention to Frankie Dettori, 50 years of age, still going strong. And I don't think it's inconceivable he rides the Epsom Derby winner for Aidan O'Brien. I think John Gosden, as we speak, has got 10 entries in the race. None of them look Derby standard as at the moment. Frankie, of course, rode the perceived second string in the 1,000 guineas for Mr. O'Brien. You could see the Aidan O'Brien team coming over with 5 or 6 runners in the Derby, and Ryan on being the number one narrow choice and Frankie being on the second one. I don't think it's beyond any reasonable doubt that Frankie could end up winning the Epsom Derby for Aidan O'Brien.
I can see him over your shoulder there, Pat, as well.
Yes.
Something that viewers have probably been watching throughout the winter, isn't it? I think we've got ourselves a fanboy. Okay, Paul Kealy. Paul Kealy. Big call. And I'm just gonna sit back, I'm gonna do a Graham Norton and let you go.
No, I don't want to turn it into a rant, but let's just talk about the bugbear of all punters when it comes to, flat or jumps, but more flat, and that is the watering can. At Sandowns mixed meeting earlier last month, that ground was on the soft side. We've got Haydock tomorrow, and the going on, I had to do a double take when I looked at it yesterday. The going on the hurdles course is good to soft, good in places. With a going stick reading is 6.8. The going on the flat course is soft with a going stick reading of 5.1. Now, I had a look at the previous 10 years of this meeting, and it's nearly always the other way round, i.e. it's softer ground on the jumps courses, which is watered for safety, and faster on the flat course. Once it was slightly lower on a flat course, but never like this. I mean, we've now got soft ground on the 8th of May, which will be heavy ground by the time they race, given what they've got to come, after the driest April in the UK on record.
What is going on, Kills?
What's going on? What is going on? Why do they need to put so much water on a flat track? There's nothing wrong with good to firm ground. We're now going to end up with an absolute bog for a flat racing card after the driest April the UK has ever had, and we're 8 days into May.
Where does the pressure come on these clerks and the officials at the race?
I don't know.
Is it from the BHA? Because we've had some small field sizes. We've been moaning about that, saying the moment we get some rain, we'll have bigger fields. So,
yeah, but I mean, the problem we've got small field sizes is partly prize money. It's partly the COVID situation with owners not being able to go, and they'll send their horses elsewhere because of the money, etc. We probably have too much racing. If truth be told, but there's nothing wrong with good to firm ground. There never has been anything wrong with good to firm ground for flat horses, and we're watering it out of existence. And I think it's wrong. And then, of course, when the weather turns, at Haydock are desperately unlucky. It has to be said when it comes to the weather, but it turns there a lot.
So, but surely they know that by now.
Well, yeah.
You've got to take your chances, haven't you? I mean, if we moan a lot about Champions Day and horses that won't turn up, because of the ground it's positioned in the calendar. But yeah, here they are. If you want to strut your stuff on Saturday in May, it's going to be deep enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
The discrepancies in those two going sticks of
that is an unfathomable discrepancy.
I was going to go with that word. No, I'm not going to.
Oh, dear, that's two hard words to say back to back, isn't it? Unfathomable and discrepancy. Crikey. I'll give up ranting now.
Indefatigable.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, listen, absolutely right. What do you make about that as punters out there? If you're having a bet on the Tuesday when the decks come out and you're starting to look at these anti-post markets, it's not just about the weather, is it? It's the watering can. across the Irish Sea go we for the 1,000 guineas trial at Leopardstown. We spoke to Jessica Harrington about her run of climate in this. That was fascinating stuff. Lots of fillies with something to prove. That's what I thought. That was basically my initial ring. And then I came down on Fantasy Lady, who's had a run, got a decent draw for Patrick Toomey, and I think can take a step forward. She will do for me, Keels, in a bit of a minefield puzzle.
Yes, I couldn't get my head around it, to be honest. I think all the horses with lots of form have proved, if they've proved anything, it's that they won't be winning the Irish 1,000 guineas. They've got to improve quite dramatically. So for me, it makes sense to go for one of the lightly raced ones. You've got Chandra in there, but I did like the way Acanella beat Climate in that run, and I'm sure, obviously the stable gets them ready fairly.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Fairly early, and Jessica Harrington's entitled to think she might be able to get back. But I thought he'd done it really well. And if I was going to have a bet, I probably won't, to be honest, but it would be Acanella.
Okay, lukewarm for me and Kills so far. Fantasy Lady, though, will probably tempt me in, I'd imagine, at fair odds. Pat Cooney.
Yeah, I like Dermot Weld's filly, Chandra, who won at the current August, 1 run, 1 win. And Dermot Weld, master trainer, is very patient with his horses. They don't fire first time out. So any horse of his that wins first time out as a juvenile must be pretty talented and have a whole ton of improvement in them. And I think that's the situation here with Chandra. It's significant she's starting off in a Guineas trial. Dermot Weld, very much a man to respect. This could just be the unexposed filly, who may well be the best of them all in time, and hopefully it'll be on Sunday as well. So I'm going to go for Chandra, 1 run, 1 win for the Aga Khan colours.
Okay, keeping it simple, Pat Cooney in the 1,000 guineas trial. Real treat for you, 3:15 at Leopardstown on Sunday. It is the Derrinstown Derby trial. We were just talking off air, weren't we, Kills? And I said, when was the last winner to do it? It's what we say every year going into it. It used to be...
Well, it used to be the go-to race, didn't it? But we're talking Sindar, Galileo, High Chaparral, and nothing.
Oh,
no.
So
Broom,
Broom
only got beat half a length.
Fascinating rock. All good horses.
Yeah, good horses, but not quite doing it. May or may not get it. We haven't seen a superstar in the Guineas trials, the Derby trials yet. Much of the talk all winter has been about high definition. I think it's a defining battle. That would have been interesting. High definition. I suddenly got a bee in my bonnet about him the other day when I was looking at the Lingfield race, and I thought, what if he is actually what he looked like for most of those 2 races he ran in last year, which is a big ungainly boat. Because he traded at 100 to 1 both times.
I thought you were going to say slow, but you went with...
No, and then won. And that's what was my thing, is why are they running him at Lingfield? This is not the normal plan. And they might have thought, did they really want to see whether he's got any chance whatsoever of acting at Epsom? I do. I tell you, if he drops, if he does run in the Derby, and
is he going to make Epsom?
And he gets, well, this is the other problem. This is the other one. But if he gets to the Derby and he runs like he did, and those 2 races that he ran,
it'll be over.
It'll be over. He won't make that ground up running sideways down the straight and bumping into horses. Not a prayer in hell. Like, you know what I mean? So. He's obviously become very weak now because his blood wasn't right. They've taken him out of that. He's not running in the Derrinstown. He might run in the Dante, but we're only talking about next week. And he's not right to run on Saturday. Is he going to be right to run on Thursday or whenever it is? Yeah. It's not cast iron that he does. And then where does he go after that? Does he go to a Derby without a run? Can be done. Charmit.
Wow.
Charmit? Was that
Charmit?
First time out? Yeah. So maybe he's looking for, he needs a super sub, and maybe Bolshoi Ballet is the one.
I'm a fan. He's a great big horse, isn't he, with a bit of a turn of foot.
He won the Ballysacks. He looked like he won it. He looked like he won it easily enough. I think that's decent form. I don't particularly like the other 2. I mean, Lockderg, long walk hurdle, isn't it? Like,
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's always confused me, that.
Yeah. No. The question is rain, because it's good to firm in places as we speak, but they've got rain due today, they've got rain due Saturday, they've got rain due Sunday. And we've got Max Riley in the race, who won the Futurity last year, won the only other start, a group start on soft ground as well. Looks a cast iron stayer at 10 furlongs at least. And if the ground was to turn in his favour, it'd be interesting to see how they bet. At the moment, I think if it doesn't, if it's no worse than good to soft, Bolshoi Bally would be very much the one to beat, and he may well end up being clear favourite for the Derby afterwards.
Yeah, you usually get these trials, don't you? And you're like, there's one that you like, and you're hoping it runs well. There could be 4 or 5 in here that you could quite conceivably take out of the race or want to back. Taipan, we heard from Jesse about him. He was a big eye catcher on his return. Southern Lights, we spoke to Declan McDonough about him last week, and that was a big one in that maiden because they thought he'd need it. At Leopardstown, course form as well. And you mentioned Max Winey, the Group 1 winner as well. So
it seems to be more depth in this trial than the trials we've seen so far.
Yeah, very much so.
So if there's a good winner, we've probably got a good Derby favourite before the Dante is run.
I guess that's what you'll be looking for, Pat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I would say with Bolshoi Bally, there was money for him anti-post prior to him making a winning reappearance. So yes, there was the high definition obsession really with Aidan keeps saying that, he's a legitimate Derby contender and so forth. But I'm with Keels a bit. You do look at high definition, you think, I don't know. I'd rather wait for in run and get a bigger price about him. But Bolshoi Bally's come out. He made pretty much all the running to win on his reappearance over the course and distance. He's fit. He's got the form in the book. He's a big player in this race, isn't he? Max Winnie, again, his form is on heavy and on soft, but he's not run on goodish ground or fast ground before. Who knows? He might be even better. He's got a mixed bag of form, really, though, isn't he? I think it points to Bolshoi Bally winning on Sunday, but not necessarily being the best horse to take out of the race. I'm sure there'll be a few eye catchers in the placings behind him.
I think a lot of people will agree with you, Pat. And if you've just come around after fainting after Paul Kealy's summation of high definition, the top star in the Ballydock pack is Bolshoi Bally for him. I'm going to put Southern Lights on top. Time to bring in the guys at myracing.com then. Check out their website for free expert analysis and tips. They like to send us some doubles along the way, and they've got one for you at Lingfield. In the Oaks trial, they think that technique will take it out for Martin Mead. That was a good run at Epsom, wasn't it? And then later on, keep it simple with Adea in the Colts version. Well, it's been a day of agreement so far here in the studio, so let's get it out of the way. Pat Cooney and me, we're doubling down. First race at Ascot, 1:55, Dream Loper, Ed Walker. I was very taken with the comeback, Pat. She was a buzzy filly last year. They're aiming at the Royal Meeting. I think if she gets a lead here from Stallthorpe, she's going to be the one to beat. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. She was a real eye catcher, wasn't she, on her reappearance? And she probably pulls hard. She doesn't make life easy for the jockey. But that was on the round course. She was the ball just didn't bounce away from start to finish in the race. You look at her in this opener tomorrow at Ascot. Stalls on the centre, just the 8 runners. Tom Marquand on the board. I don't think she'll be unlucky in running this time around. You're always a little bit worried with an eye catcher. Do they really would have won with a clear run? Maybe, maybe not. But she's a horse very much a potential. Like you, I'm expecting a big run tomorrow.
Yeah, she could have gone in the Victoria Cup, of course. She would have been aimed at the Hunt Cup had they not got Matthew Flinders in the stable, who I think wins the Hunt Cup. She goes on the ground. Me and Pat are doubling down.
Oh, I like Matthew Flinders. Interesting that race. I think there's 2 very interesting Cheveley Park horses in there. And depending on the ground, I'd probably be conservatoire myself. But I'll leave you boys to it. Anyway, I'm going to Lingers. In the 3:25, the Chartwell, Isabella Giles, 6th of 17 in the Fred Darlington alcohol-free. Bit too free, first run of the season. Every single drop of rain will help. She's got stall 6. If you watch her races, she breaks smartly. The stalls are in the centre there. They always come over to the Golden Highway on the rail. She has the speed to get across. She has raced up with the pace most of the time. Won 2 group races last year. She, one of them on soft ground by 7. That's a good one. Got the £5 penalty, but a little bit of class, and I think if she gets to rail, she'll win.
Yeah, I agree, Kills. She looks overpriced. Let's hope then in a couple of weeks' time we'll be saying we're all off to Lingers. Well, that's all we took time for then here on this week's What a Shout. What a pleasure it's been to have you along. What a pleasure it's been to have Paul Kealy in the studio again.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Still not going anywhere at the weekend, but it won't be long.
Have you not been out in pub gardens or that sort of thing?
I can't bring myself. I've been to a restaurant a couple of times, but I can't bring myself.
I know. I called you at one in the week
in the pub in the freezing cold.
I could just about hear the claret swilling around you as you answered the phone.
Oh, calf's liver. Oh, beautiful.
Calf's liver. There we go. Pat Cooney. Well, what does the weekend hold, my man?
Well, it's just going to be very informative, hopefully, isn't it? And let's hope that it's not too much rain around and just ruins the day. And we're all sitting at home thinking, oh, not another non-runner. Let's hope we just get dry overnight would be lovely for us all, wouldn't it?
Great stuff as ever, Pat. Great stuff as ever from Jessica Harrington. What an absolute pleasure that was to have the superstar Irish trainer on. You can get your questions in for Jessie and, of course, the rest of the panel throughout the weekend. Do that on YouTube, via Facebook Live, or hashtag What a Shout if you're doing anything on Twitter. Get them in. So for myself, Dave Orton, enjoy the sport. Remember, gamble responsibly, and you can download the free Must Have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store or the Google Play Store itself.